11:17 p.m. April 17th, 2025, guys, on a Thursday. We up in here late night. But you know what? This is just a news stream. So, welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Kieran Smith. Call me Q, and we are on the corner. So, listen, guys. Every now and then, I just do a news stream where I jump on here and I might just stream some news for you guys to look at. Usually, I react to most of it the next day. So, I'm doing that today because crazy day, right? Easter weekend. So, it's been crazy in my household. So, preparing for things and church and just family and craziness and all the things, right? And yeah. So, with that being said, it was a crazy day, but nonetheless, because we do a daily live stream over here, I was going to jump on here, do a news stream for you guys. I'm probably going to react to at least two of these things tomorrow on our Friday live stream. So I just wanted to go ahead, let you guys jump in and out, hit the like button, say where you watch it from as you jump in and out, and just kind of get a gist about what we're going to look at tomorrow, but also keep up with some news that was pretty pertinent today. So with that being said, first up on the menu, we got Stephen A. Smith exposes Floyd Mayweather for going bankrupt after $402 million scam. And that was covered by Box News. Shout out to them. And then the Rover Report has this changes everything. So Victor David Hansen is, I don't want to spoil what he's talking about, so we're just gonna jump over to Victor David Hansen from the Daily Signal and listen to what he has to say. And then shout out to PBS NewsHour. Senator Van Hollen says El Salvador soldiers blocked him from seeing wrongly deported man. So that would be Kilmar Abreu Garcia. Apparently he went out to El Salvador and he said he's gonna tell the story, but I forgot what he said. How he was a ways away from the prison, and people actually met him there and told him that they were ordered to not allow him to see the prisoner. So, and then we'll take a look at what Senator Van Hollen has to say about that. And then I have the Christian clip I want to end the live stream with, but I might actually save this for tomorrow just because tomorrow's in a couple of minutes and I could save that for our Friday live stream. I don't always end the news stream with the clip. I usually end the live stream with that. So with that being said, guys, let me jump in. I'm not going to do much reacting to this stuff. This is just you guys kind of watching, and then Friday for our live stream, I'm going to jump on here probably about 4 p.m. And that will be a definite because tomorrow is not such a busy day for me. But I'll probably jump on here and then react to definitely this by Stephen A. Smith. Probably what Pete Hegseth's going to talk about. And then I think I saw something Ben Shapiro was doing that I wanted to grab. So I'll do that. So I want to play this for you guys so we can watch what Stephen A. Smith said about Floyd Mayweather possibly going bankrupt. Let's see what he has to say.
I sit here with sadness today to report to you that I'm incredibly disappointed in one of my all-time favorite fighters, my brother, Floyd Money Mayweather. Ladies and gentlemen, chaos broke out. And I'm not talking about legit, bona fide boxing, pure boxing chaos. I'm talking about the kind of stuff that's just embarrassing. Look at this here, please.
This is a beautiful house, my man. How many square feet is this?
A little bit over 20,000 square feet, 3 or 4 level.
Money Mayweather, seems appropriate that you would be living in Vegas.
My mentality is always about, working smarter, not harder.
Floyd Money Mayweather was once the epitome of boxing success and financial prowess, but recent revelations suggest a different story. Stephen A. Smith questions the stability of Mayweather's empire. Could the undefeated champ be facing his toughest opponent yet? Financial ruin. Let's break down the $402 million scandal that's shaking the boxing world.
The $1 million round.
I know we're on television, Floyd, but I think it's necessary for me to say, damn.
Well, we on ESPN, this car costs $3.2 million. This Bugatti right here costs $1.6 million. It's close to $15 million. You're right, it's close to $15 million.
And you don't drive that?
No.
Floyd Mayweather has spent years branding himself as the highest paid athlete on the planet, boasting about $100 million paydays every time his name hits the headlines.
Yes, she did.
Who got the highest gate?
Floyd Mayweather.
Who made the most money?
You did.
Who was the most accurate fighter of all time?
You were.
So it's basically saying that.
The greatest of all time.
Okay.
All right.
But now, one voice from the fight world is tearing that entire narrative apart. Former UFC title contender and analyst Chael Sonnen is calling it one of the greatest illusions in sports marketing, suggesting that Mayweather's so-called 9-figure fight checks might have been nothing more than smoke and mirrors.
Coined this phrase, fake news.
Yeah.
Why is he saying that? What does that even mean? You can trust the news. There's no such thing as fake. People were dressed up as empty seats, and I mean thousands of people.
No.
I bought my mother's ticket that day. That day, my mother decides that she wants to go to the fight. So I'm in there, and I'm telling the world that this place is sold out because that's what's on the screen. And it's not even close. This isn't like, it's pretty much full. This isn't. There's thousands of empty seats. That was the first time that in my own life I ever just, wow, fake news is real.
Wow.
And then Mayweather, remember, they wanted a rematch. They were begging. They were doing more media trying to get a rematch than they did leading into the first match. And the guys that wrote the checks.
So while Mayweather flashed watches, jets, and bank slips, the hard financial proof, according to Sonnen, never actually surfaced. No broadcast partner, no third-party verification, just headlines.
Whoever puts that press release and sends it out never has a company that's publicly traded had an executive back those numbers. They're all lies.
And this raises a brutal question. Was Mayweather's empire built on actual checks, or just hype, ego, and PR magic? Sonnen isn't alone either, with financial lawsuits, unpaid jewelry bills, and the crypto scam lawsuit haunting his name. The money brand seems to be leaking from all sides. Floyd Mayweather has always been the face of untouchable wealth in boxing, the man who turned luxury into a lifestyle, turning his nickname Money into an entire identity. But behind the private jets and million-dollar shopping sprees, the cracks in that image are beginning to show, and they're showing faster than anyone expected. Mayweather is broke, but no one's openly saying it yet, except his old rivals. Even Oscar De La Hoya, a longtime rival turned reluctant supporter, couldn't ignore what's unfolding. De La Hoya, who has often defended Mayweather in public, was recently forced to admit the reality.
But you have to stop embarrassing yourself with these exhibitions. I know life is hard, I know life is expensive, but come on, dude, put your legacy first. Nobody wants to remember you like this. And it gets worse, your jeweler filed a lawsuit against you in Miami. And many are saying you're gonna have to sell off your assets. I hate seeing this happen, bro.
Coming from a promoter who knows both sides of boxing's business, De La Hoya's words weren't just criticism. They sounded more like a financial obituary. The jewelry lawsuit, asset rumors, and a long line of exhibition fights. All signs that Mayweather's so-called billion-dollar empire isn't as bulletproof as the public believed. And the fact that De La Hoya, someone who once stood on the opposite side of the ring, is now offering sympathy instead of rivalry, that speaks louder than any bank statement. But the irony in all of this is that Mayweather didn't stay silent either. While De La Hoya publicly paints a picture of sympathy, Floyd made sure the world remembered the real business history between them. When it comes to money and loyalty, Mayweather has long hinted that De La Hoya wasn't exactly the cleanest operator behind closed doors.
We helped build this guy up. He was fighting on my undercard. He was the co-main. We helped build this guy up. And you know what Oscar De La Hoya do? You know what Mr. Loyal Oscar De La Hoya do? I'm sorry, Mr. Disloyal Oscar De La Hoya do? He take him right over to HBO and cut a deal with HBO. And when he cut the deal, he got money, but I bet Canelo didn't see none. But these are the things that people don't know about in the sport of boxing.
For a man who built his reputation on flaunting wealth, this wasn't just about Canelo or old business. This was Mayweather hinting at a pattern of hidden deals, unspoken payouts, and financial games behind the scenes. The same financial games now surfacing in lawsuits, unpaid debts, and quiet asset sales. And it's not just financial experts and retired champions raising eyebrows at Mayweather's empire. Even fighters from his own generation and opponents who stood across from him have started pulling the mask off. Logan Paul, who shared the ring with Mayweather, is still chasing a payday that, according to him, mysteriously vanished after the fight. And his frustration didn't hold back any punches.
No, I got paid. It's not in full. Like a couple million somehow that was just missing. Where did the money go? Floyd said he could afford a Jeff Bezos-sized jet for the money he made for that fight. I ain't got a debt. Fuck, dude. I'm missing a couple mil. We're gonna find it, bro. We'll see you in court. The art is happening. Just like, watch my words. We're coming for you. We're coming for your millions and the last thing you change.
A court case, missing millions, and another crack in the Money Mayweather brand. What started as a boxing exhibition ended with a financial hunt, and Logan isn't the only name hinting that the numbers behind Floyd's fortune might not be adding up. When even the fighters are forced to chase their payouts through the courtroom, it leaves one question off the table. Is Mayweather's financial empire already running on fumes? But even as Logan Paul moved forward with his lawsuit, claiming Mayweather never paid his full share for their fight, Floyd didn't stay silent. Instead, he responded in classic Mayweather fashion, flipping the blame back onto the business and brushing the whole scandal off like it was nothing more than loose change.
Right away. Just like I'm still collecting checks from fights 7 to 8 years ago. I'm still collecting checks. Why? Because I made smart moves and I'm my own boss. So they hate when the tables turn. You know, look how many years they've been owing us money. Well, we don't ever trip. So now when the tables turn, they say, oh, you owe us something. Be happy with the biggest payday you ever got in your life.
Mayweather's calm dismissal painted the lawsuit as nothing more than routine business, but the timing told a different story. From unpaid opponents to jewelers filing lawsuits and rumors of asset sales, Floyd's financial fortress seems to be facing pressure from every direction, and no amount of smart moves can hide the growing list of people still waiting to be paid. Logan's breakdown pulls back the curtain on a business strategy most fans never see. For years, Mayweather wasn't just making money inside the ring. He was controlling the money around it. From scooping up entire ticket sections before they hit the public, to flipping them for massive profits, Floyd's hustle extended far beyond the fight night.
He is the promotional arm of his fights. It's why, in part, he makes so much money, because whereas a normal promotional company will take 30%, he is that. And so oftentimes for his fights, before the tickets can go on sale to the public, or like right as they go on sale, he'll buy a whole wing, a whole section, and then he'll sell them at a higher price, marked up, so he can make,
Like all the floors, he takes all of them.
All of them, 3, 4, 5x, and it's part of his business.
On the surface, Logan even admitted the strategy itself wasn't illegal or unusual for someone running their own fight promotions. It was just business. But the real problem, according to him, wasn't about ticket flipping at all. It was about investors being left in the dark and millions of dollars vanishing once the seats were sold.
With this particular lawsuit, he had an investor pay $1.4 million in total for this section, and the investor was promised that the seats would sell at I think a 7 to 8x multiple, and he expected a return on his investment, and sure enough, he didn't get his initial investment back. He strung along. He gets like 100K here and there, strung along, not getting paid. Now his investment allegedly is being rolled into Floyd's alleged fight with Manny Pacquiao, and so the investors being strung along in this thing, and eventually, like us, it's like, we're simply not getting paid in full. Like, we've been fucking dragged along for way too long now, and this guy finally filed a lawsuit against Floyd Mayweather. So that's the one that's actually active and pending, and then here we are.
What started as a smart business setup slowly spiraled into claims of false promises, unpaid returns, and now courtroom battles. Logan's words echo a pattern that's become hard to ignore. A growing list of fighters, investors, and partners still waiting for Mayweather to settle the bill. While Mayweather's public image continues to orbit around private jets and million-dollar shopping sprees, the cracks in that Money Mayweather empire have started surfacing. And this time, the accusations aren't coming from journalists or bitter ex-promoters. They're coming from the very people who stepped into the ring with him. Logan Paul, who shared one of the most watched exhibition fights of the decade against Mayweather, revealed that the real battle didn't end when the final bell rang. It began after the cameras stopped rolling. And according to Logan, the paycheck that was promised still hasn't arrived.
Or is that something you can't
No, he has not paid me in full, that is a fact.
No.
Short few mil, yeah.
Wow. Still up to mil.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Have you been in contact with him?
Nah, we're taking this one to court.
No, I didn't think serious. It's like
Do I look serious, lady?
you do. I'm just making sure. I apologize.
Really?
I'm
fucking with you. I'm not fucking with you. Yeah, we're taking the court.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So.
Yeah, see you in the courtroom. Congrats, you're going to prison, Floyd.
The moment Logan's words hit the internet, the
He said,
illusion of
"Congrats,
Mayweather's
you're going to
untouchable
prison."
wealth began to crumble even further.
Logan Paul's
This
a
wasn't a
troll,
bitter
bro.
promoter or an old rival whispering in the shadows. This was a man who had stood in the same ring, shook the same hands, and signed the same contracts. Floyd Mayweather, always confident and unapologetically boasting about his lavish lifestyle, continues to remind everyone that no matter the public's opinion of him, his success remains undeniable. His words serve as a reminder of the wealth he's accumulated and the empire he's built through hard work and business acumen.
That takes care of everything when everything is okay. I still got my private jets. Let me put an S on that because I got 3 of them. Still got my private jets. I still have all my beautiful homes, still have all my properties everywhere, and still making millions every month.
These statements are more than just a flex. They're a testament to the fact that regardless of the challenges he's faced in and out of the ring, Mayweather has remained a financial force, one whose lifestyle continues to be the envy of many in the world of sports and beyond. While Floyd Mayweather continues to thrive financially and dominates the boxing scene, not everyone agrees with his recent choices. Critics, including Stephen A. Smith, have been vocal about his decision to take on exhibition fights against non-boxers, particularly the infamous Logan Paul matchup. In Smith's eyes, Floyd is risking his legendary status by stepping into the ring with people who don't belong there, diminishing the value of his career. For Smith, Mayweather's behavior is an example of chasing money at the expense of legacy.
When you are as great as Floyd Money Mayweather, everybody doesn't deserve to be in your space. I know you like to make money. You're never going to stop making money. Very, very few people on the planet know how to make money like you know how to make money. But some of this stuff has got to stop. You want to get Conor McGregor in the ring for an exhibition match? All right, that's fine. You know, Conor sold that. It was great marketing. He's not a boxer, but hey, he was a knockout artist in the UFC. I get it. Fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is this. When you're great, when you're elite, not just anybody deserves to be in your pristine space. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about on the street or anything like that. Boxing is your thing.
While Smith acknowledges that Floyd's ability to generate income is unmatched, he criticizes the idea of giving attention to fights that don't showcase true boxing talent. In his view, these exhibition matches with people like Logan Paul, who have no real boxing background, tarnish Mayweather's legacy and undermine the sport's integrity. Stephen A. believes Floyd has nothing left to prove and should focus on preserving his legendary status rather than indulging in fights that make headlines but don't contribute to his legacy in the ring.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of agree with Stephen A. Smith there. Like, I'm not gonna comment too much because this is more for tomorrow. But I agree with him there to an extent. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say it was a complete throwaway, but yeah, when I started to see him fight people like Logan Paul, and there's nothing wrong. Like, Logan Paul's a pretty good boxer. We know that if you watched him fight, and if you haven't, you should, because he's actually not a bad boxer at all. And his brother's pretty good too, but. This is Floyd Mayweather we're talking about. I don't think Stephen A. Smith would feel much different about somebody like a Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, like Muhammad Ali, if he could still get into exhibition fights. So I kind of agree with him on this.
They say the higher you climb, the harder you fall. When for Floyd Mayweather, the fall might have already happened behind closed doors. The man who once counted his millions on camera, flaunting cash like confetti, is now surrounded by lawsuits, unpaid debts, and whispers of a financial empire collapsing from the inside out. For years, Mayweather convinced the world he was untouchable. The king of pay-per-view, the master of luxury, the man who turned boxing into a billion-dollar business. But what if the money was never really there? What if the private jets, the diamond chains, and the flashy bank slips were nothing more than props in the greatest financial illusion the fight world has ever seen?
Man, and it's crazy, but it's happening. Yeah, 50 Cent is pretty much exposing the fact that Floyd Mayweather is having issues, but it was not 50 that started it. It was actually Business Insider.
They got Floyd here. It says Floyd Mayweather stepping into Manhattan's multi-family ring in a big way. a retired boxer has gone into a contract to pay $420 million for a 1,000-unit affordable housing portfolio with more than 60 buildings, according to sources familiar to the deal. Josh Gotti of Black Spruce Management is the seller, and Black Spruce Magazine declined comment. It says also here that the investor partnered with Maynard Orchard on a $1.8 billion deal for 1,766 units spanning 6 rental buildings and in acquisition of the American Cooper Building, twin luxury towers in Murray Hills with the view of the East River.
The $402 million scam isn't just a headline, it's a warning. Behind the designer suits and staged Instagram photos, the truth about Floyd's so-called fortune is starting to surface. And this time, no amount of PR can save the money brand from bankruptcy. And if you think the $402 million scandal was the end of the story, think again. The deeper this rabbit hole goes, the uglier the truth looks for Floyd Mayweather. Behind all the Instagram filters and private jet photo ops, the real Floyd might just be another victim of his own ego. A man so obsessed with looking rich, he forgot to stay rich. And when Stephen A. Smith starts questioning your financial reality on national TV, it's no longer just haters talking. It's a clear sign the walls are closing in. Floyd Mayweather didn't just sell fights, he sold the dream of untouchable wealth. But the moment you peel away the flashy watches and staged bank slips, all that's left is a man running out of time, out of luck, and, by the looks of these lawsuits, out of money. The $402 million scam wasn't just a bad business move. It might have been the final nail in the coffin for the Money Mayweather myth. What do you think? Is Mayweather's money empire finally falling apart, or has he been playing the world all along? Share your thoughts in the comments section.
What does it take to be a Shaman dancer? It takes a mind of...
Okay. Alright guys, we're gonna jump over to the next clip now. We're switching over to the Rover Report. This changes everything. So this is Victor David Hansen. So let's take a look at what he's talking about. I don't want to give it away.
Speak a little bit today, very briefly, about the Pentagon under new Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Mr. Hegseth, I do not believe that you are qualified to meet the overwhelming demands of this job.
Trump nominees, Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, the left went after Pete Hegseth the most vehemently.
But what I do know is that I've led men and women. I've led people.
I'm trying to get answers from you for quite some time on this.
On the Sean Ryan show, you said, and I quote, "I'm straight up saying that we should not have women in combat roles."
Because I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
2 female soldiers have completed the Army's Ranger School.
Admission standards, overall standards. I think a huge one is women in combat and quotas. I think the way they pushed that under Obama in a way that had zero to do with efficacy, zero to do with lethality and capability.
You don't like women in combat?
No.
And he required J.D. Vance to break that tie.
The yeas are 50 and the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the nomination is confirmed.
I love women service members who contribute amazingly because everything about men and women serving together makes the situation more complicated, and complication in combat means casualties are worse.
There was a reason for that.
Victor Davis Hansen exposes the real reason why Pete Hegseth faced the most backlash of all Trump nominees. Because he threatened to break the cycle of corruption inside the Pentagon. From billion-dollar jets to diversity quotas, Hansen breaks down how the military-industrial complex became untouchable and how Hegseth plans to change that.
He is proposing radical changes in the Pentagon. Remember where we are right now with the Pentagon. We spend $820 billion a year. It's about 14% of the entire budget. And we are building $14 billion carriers. We're building $85 million F-35s. We have built $140 million F-22s. And we're watching in Ukraine and the Middle East the entire mode of 21st century warfare being revolutionized. It's more of not that we're going to have bad quality, but it's more quantity and quality. They're flooding the zones with cheap drones on the ocean, in the air, and on land. And we're not there yet. We're not doing it. So what Pete Hegseth wants to do is change the entire manner of procurement.
So both sides are going to make a lot of claims, and the president has very directly engaged both sides in real time. There's bilateral negotiations with Russia, which, by the way, no one else has been able to do. Joe Biden was never able to bring Russia to the table for actual peace talks.
What we have now is more or less a monopoly. We have Raytheon, we have the Boston Military Group, we have Northrop, we have General Dynamics, we have Lockheed. And the way it has worked is that four-star generals who have very generous pensions rotate out. They work for these consortia, and then they use their contacts of subordinate officers to favor their procurement. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it's an inherent conflict of interest. And Pete Hegseth is going to stop that. He can just go back to what we used to do. We used to say that a military officer cannot be Secretary of Defense in the civilian role. But the last two were fine men. General Mattis, I know him, whom I like, and also General Austin. We waived that. I don't think we should continue to do that. There was a reason we had a law. I wrote that we should waive it for Jim Mattis because I thought he was a superb artist. Looking back, I think it puts too much pressure on the military officers to distance themselves. So it would be better to have that position as a civilian one. Whether we like it or not, we're going to get rid of DEI, and he's already doing it. He's going to save, I think, billions of dollars.
Well, DEI is not going well at the Defense Department because it's dead. The president said in his inaugural, we will be merit-based and colorblind, and that is the case at the Defense Department. We want everyone treated equally with high standards and held accountable with warfighting, lethality, and readiness front and center. We don't have time for emphasizing differences.
And that has already had a profound effect. We have record number of recruitment per day. It's accelerating at almost 10,000 a month. And we were down 40 or 50,000 recruits in the military. Instead of saying this is a crisis, said, well, we really didn't need 40 or 50, so we met our goals. No, we were down. And now we're not down. And you can see that Pete is trying to associate with the rank and file, lift weights with him, jog. It's going to be a people's person, defense secretary. He's also not going to tolerate retired admirals and generals that come out of the woodwork during election season, use their rank. They're still subject to Article 88 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is enforced against lower ranking officer. The statute says retired or serving flag officers shall not disparage major civilian officials in the executive branch, cabinet officers, vice president, especially the president. And yet we've seen in these recent news cycles, I won't mention all of the generals' names, but they've called their commander-in-chief a fascist, a Nazi-like, a Mussolini character, a liar, a cheat, who should be removed sooner, just terrible things with impunity. We're not going to see that anymore under Pete Hegseth. Procurement will be different, recruitment will be different, retired officers will adhere to the code. There will be less conflict of interest. There's a lot of fat in that budget with DEI. And he's basically sending a message that we're not going to look at the superficial color of one's skin or their religion or their gender. We're going to look at the content of their character. And more importantly, even than that, the ability to fight well for the United States. And I think he's going to be very successful. He's going to be very controversial. And that's why the left went after him more than anybody else. And I think that the Pentagon budget will shrink and it will be more bang for the buck. And it's just all welcome.
Victor Davis Hanson isn't just warning us, he's handing us a mirror. The question now is, do we want a military that defends America or one that defends itself? If Pete Hegseth's reforms shake you, they should. Because what's at stake isn't just money or politics, it's the soul of the nation's defense.
I mean, I can agree with him there.
Hansen right? Or is this too much, too fast?
Too much, too fast. Well, I think that's subjective as to who we're talking to, right? I think Victor Davis Hanson makes a great point. I love the way he covers news anyway. Over on the Daily Signal, shout out to them. But it's going to be different under Pete Hegseth, and we should want it to be. Like I said, tonight's not too much about talking, but all that stuff about retired officers coming out during election season and using their rank and things like that, all of that is very true. So to actually see that come to an end would be a relief. All right, so we're switching over to PBS NewsHour. Senator Van Hollen says El Salvador soldiers blocked him from seeing wrongly deported man. So this would be about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Senator Van Hollen from Maryland, Democrat from Maryland, I believe, and he took it upon himself to go out there because he felt like the Trump administration wasn't making enough initiatives. So yay him. But apparently, as he was a ways away from the prison, he was met by some guards from the prison, some personnel from the prison, and they let him know that they were ordered to make sure that he did not meet with the prisoner. And then it seems like later on in the news, he wanted to say that he did get a chance to meet with him. My wife actually told me this, and she was like, yeah, everybody in the comments is kind of going crazy because they're trying to figure out why did he switch up his story. So that's why my news, not my news title, my video title says that the news lies about it later on. Because if they are trying to spin this for whatever reason, right, we're going to make sure that we're paying attention to it enough to catch it. So apparently this is the most accurate news. He went to try to go visit Kilmar, and he was met by personnel from the prison a ways away from the prison telling him that he wasn't allowed to see him. So let's take a look.
Federal Appeals Court offered a scathing rebuke today of the Trump administration's handling of the deportation of a Maryland resident to a mega prison in El Salvador. The unanimous three-judge panel called the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, quote, shocking, writing, quote, the government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. The court also upheld a lower court's order that Trump officials can be called to testify in the case. Maryland Democratic Senator Sen Van Hollen traveled to El Salvador to meet with government officials and push for the release of Mr. Abrego Garcia, but he was denied access to the prison. He joins me now from El Salvador. Senator, welcome back to the NewsHour. Thanks for joining us.
So he's still out there right now.
It's good to be with you.
So you went there with the intention of meeting with Mr. Abrego Garcia. What were you told about why you would not be able to do so?
Well, you're right. I went with the intention of two issues. One was to ask for him to release him, but the other was to see him. And today I traveled to Secot, which is the notorious prison where he's been stashed. And about 3 kilometers out, I was stopped by soldiers who prevented me from going any further and said they'd been ordered to not allow me to go visit with him.
And have you been able to get any kind of update on Mr. Garcia's condition, or whether he's had access to lawyers since he's been deported, anything like that?
I have not. And that is one of the big issues here, because he's not had any ability to connect with his family, with his wife, with his mom, or with his lawyers. There's been absolutely zero communication. I asked the American embassy here whether they've made inquiries on his behalf, and they said that they had not been giving any such direction from the Trump administration to inquire about his well-being.
So we saw the Salvadoran president, Nayib Bukele, in the White House meeting with President Trump, basically saying he's not going to return Mr. Garcia to the U.S. You said that you met with the Salvadoran vice president, Felix Ulloa, who said that their government is unable to release Mr. Garcia. What reasons did he give you? What did you take away from your meeting with him about why the Salvadoran government is taking this stance?
Well, I told the vice president that right now El Salvador was complicit in this illegal abduction and stashing of Mr. Abrego Garcia in this prison in El Salvador, and that they should release him. The response was what you heard from the president of El Salvador in the Oval Office, which is they can't smuggle Abrego Garcia into the United States. And I said, well, wait a minute. We're not asking you to smuggle him back in the United States. We're simply asking you as a sovereign country to open the gates and let him go. After all, Attorney General Pam Bondi said at one point that they would send an airplane, but that the administration needed El Salvador to release him. So that's why I asked the vice president simply to release him from the prison. He's illegally detained there, and they should not be complicit in this.
So I guess the real question here, Senator, is if the Salvadorans won't release him, and the U.S. government does not seem to be working to release him or bring him back, what more can be done? What else can you do from your position?
Nothing.
Well, I think more pressure and more of a spotlight can have an impact over time, because I think it's unsustainable for both the Trump administration to continue to thumb its nose at the U.S. courts, especially in light of the Fourth Circuit opinion upholding the district judge, and of course the 9-0 decision by the Supreme Court. And it's unsustainable, I think, for El Salvador to say, look, we don't know anything about, why we're holding him, other than the fact that the United States government is paying us up to $15 million to hold him and others. And I think over time that position will be unsustainable. I will say, back at home, I'm certainly not going to support any taxpayer dollars going to El Salvador so that they can continue to illegally detain a resident of Maryland.
As you likely know, Senator, also back here at home, after the Trump administration admitted that they had mistakenly deported Mr. Garcia, this week they've been releasing a lot of information about the background of his case, including this message from Homeland Security. It was titled, "The Real Story. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an MS-13 gang member with a history of violence." They lay out details of his 2019 arrest. They share excerpts of documents that they say prove his gang connection. They argue at the end of that he belongs, quote, behind bars and off American soil. What's your response to that?
My response to that is that the place to submit that evidence is the actual court, the federal court, not in the court of public opinion. Because when they went before the federal district court judge, the judge said that they did not provide ample evidence to make their MS-13 claim. So go into court. That's the proper forum for bringing these claims, for bringing these charges. But they didn't do that. Instead, they abducted him and sent him to this prison in El Salvador. Look, I'm not vouching for any kind of particular facts. That's up for the court to decide. What I'm doing is vouching for due process, which is what the Fourth Circuit just said the Trump administration is violating in such an extraordinary way. Because if we allow the Trump administration to violate due process rights in this case, you can be sure it will not be the last.
Senator, you've probably also seen this week the president has floated the idea of deporting American citizens to other nations and other prisons. He said he's looking into it. It's something that he wants to do. And in the court order today, this issue was addressed. The judge wrote, quote, "If today the executive claims the right to deport without due process and in disregard of court orders, what assurance will there be tomorrow that it will not deport American citizens and then disclaim responsibility to bring them home?" Do you, Senator, see a connection between this idea of deporting American citizens and this case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia?
Yes, because they both have to do with people's due process rights. And as the Fourth Circuit pointed out today, when you violate, Abrego Garcia's due process rights, it's a short path to tyranny, essentially, if you allow that to happen, because next we'll be violating everybody else's due process rights. So at the heart of this is the fact that the Trump administration thinks that it can ignore the law, ignore judges. They admitted in federal court that they had made a mistake in this case, but instead of fixing the mistake, what did they do? They fired the lawyer, they put him on administrative leave and reprimanded him for telling the truth. So this is why this is such a danger to all of us. And that's what the Fourth Circuit said so strongly in their opinion today.
That is Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen joining us tonight from El Salvador. Senator, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I covered this in a live stream the other day. If it wasn't yesterday, which I probably mentioned it yesterday, it was definitely uh, Tuesday, yeah, it was definitely Tuesday, where I talked about the fact that the news media has spun this appeal that Trump's cabinet did, where everybody's talking about, there was a 9-0 vote that Abrego Garcia had to be brought back to America, and that's actually not what the 9-0 vote was. That 9-0 vote in Trump's favor was that no lower district court can tell the president of the United States how to exercise his authority, especially when it comes to foreign policy. So that's where they're not being honest in the mainstream media about this. I mean, they have politicians and public officials saying this thing, and Stephen Miller went on record to say on the White House lawn and in the Oval Office that that's not the case, that this was actually an appeal. It came back 9-0 in President Trump's favor, and it was that a lower court basically could not tell President Trump what to do, especially when it came to foreign policy. All right, guys, so with that being said, I'm not going to end the live stream with Cliff's clip because the night's pretty much over and we're going to go live in a couple hours for our daily live stream on Friday. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. You guys go enjoy the rest of your night. When you stop by, you watch this later, make sure you hit the like button for me. And thanks for stopping by and chilling on the corner. So take care of yourselves, take care of one another, love yourselves, love one another, and be peaceful. Peace.